Hi Year 10. In this video I'm going to be going through the skills for question 1, which are prime factors and highest common factor and stuff like that, and also standard forms. So it's these first 3 things there. Okay, this one and this one. Okay, which are those 3 videos on Hegarty Maths: 30, 32 and 126. So the way that you should be doing this, apologies by the way for how this is kind of set out. These skills actually start here. Okay, the ones highlighted there, like that one, a couple of others down there, those ones weren't actually in the booklet that I created originally because I couldn't find questions on that question bank. So these ones kind of jump around a little bit. So that vector question there, question 3, is actually the first thing that you come to there. Okay, so these ones are on this page here, which is, if you go to where the paper starts, higher paper revision November, and then it's on this page. So these are the questions that I'm going to be doing now. Okay, so 1A, express 80 as a product of its prime factors. Now basically straight away, as soon as you see that number, those words, you should be thinking of a factor tree. Now remember, what a factor tree does is it splits this up into all its factors, but it takes out the prime numbers at each point. So try and divide this thing by 2 as many times as you can. So let's take out a 2 there, which means I'll be left with a 40. Let's take out another 2, which means I'll be left with a 20. Let's take out another 2, which means I'll be left with a 10. And then let's take out another 2, which means I'll be left with a 5, and 5 is also a prime number. So this gives me my answer. My answer is that 80 can be written or expressed as the numbers in circles times together. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. Okay, which if you wanted to write it as 2 to the power 4 times 5, you can do. Okay, so that's your mark for question 1A. Right, find the lowest common multiple of 80 and 24. Whenever you're being asked to do this, there's 2 ways you can think about it. You can treat it the same way that you've been learning about lowest common multiples right the way from probably year 5 and year 6, which is effectively the lowest common multiple means what is the smallest number that is in both of these times tables. So, excuse me, your 80 times tables aren't particularly difficult because they're just the 8 with a 0 on the end, but obviously the 24 times tables are a bit tricky. So it would require a little bit of working out to do it that way. What you should really be doing is using a Venn diagram for both numbers and using the list of prime numbers that you get. So it means doing the factor tree for 24 as well. So let's do that. That means that'll be 2 and 12, 2 and 6, and 2 and 3. So what that means is we've got 80 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5, and 24 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Now what we do is draw a Venn diagram. The left hand circle is going to represent the number 80, the right hand circle is going to represent 24, and what we do is, if I can find a number that is in both, like that pair of 2's there, I can just put 1, 2 in the intersection, because that means that there's a 2 in 80, which is that 2, and there's also a 2 in 24, which is that 2. I can do the same thing with them 2, and I can do the same thing with them 2 2's. Okay, so what's left won't pair up. I've got a 2 and a 5 left with 80, which means they go in there, and I've got a 3 left with 24, which means they go in there. Now, that diagram will help me calculate both the lowest common multiple and the highest common factor of both of them 2 numbers. The lowest common multiple is all the numbers in there times together. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. Now when you work something out like this, ignore that 5 and that first 2, because you know they're going to times together to give you 10. So figure out the rest of it and then times it by 10. Okay, so if we start with the 3 times 2 is 6, times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24, times the 10 that the 2 and the 5 will make, mean that your lowest common multiple is 240. Okay, now the highest common factor is the bit in the middle there, times together. Which is 8. Okay, so that diagram is really important. It allows you to do both of them things quite easily. Right, section 2, this is actually part 1B on the paper, which is why it kind of thrown it out a little bit. But express this in standard form. Now remember, standard form needs to be a times 10 to the power b, and a needs to lie between 1 and 10. So we ask ourselves, what number can I create using these digits in that order that is between 1 and 10? Well, I hope you can spot there that that number is going to have to be 5.3. If I put a decimal point anywhere else in that number, it doesn't lie between 1 and 10. So I know my answer is going to be 5.3 times 10 with a power. Now, the way that we figure out the powers is we look at where the decimal point started from, which is there, and we look at where we want to put it, which is between the 5 and the 3, and we count not how many zeros, but how many columns we hop over to get there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's just check that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5.3 times 10 to the minus 5, and it's a minus because it's a small number, it's a decimal number, isn't it? Okay. Right, in part B, evaluate this. So the way that you do this is you're going to do 4.5 times 4, and you're going to do 10 to the 7 times 10 to the 5. You're going to figure these two things up separately. 4.5 times 4, well, times something by 4 is doubling it and doubling it again, and if you double 4.5 you get 9. Double that, we're going to get 18 times 10, and remember that when you're multiplying things with powers, you add the powers together. So my answer here is 18 times 10 to the 12. Now hopefully you can spot something about that. This number does not lie between 1 and 10. So I have to make that 10 times smaller so that it becomes 1.8. And if we want to keep it the same size as a whole, remember this means 18 with 12 zeros after it. So if I stuck this number underneath that I've changed with the 1.8, that must also represent the exact same number as this one. So if this part of the number is getting 10 times smaller, to balance that, this one has to get 10 times bigger, which means we get an extra 10 on here, so that becomes 10 to the power 13. Okay, so if you need any practice on those, you can go to videos or clip numbers 30, 32 or 126 on Hegarty Maths. Or a good way of revising this would be to just cover them up with paper and try and do them on your own. Okay? Any issues, get in touch.